I'm drinking something right now that tastes like a candle. Not in a good way. Yeah, it's
like a
peach
candle?
tea, but it tastes so fake peachy. I don't mean to be negative, but I'm really not pleased about it. But I'm committed. It's in my cup, so here I am.
I just realized I drank all my drinks.
You drank all your drinks?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Bummer.
Do you want to go get
No,
something?
I might need to get water. Hold on.
Okay. I will entertain everybody while Dan goes gets water. Trying to keep it light in here, guys. It's been a week. Let me just tell you, it has been a week for every single human being on the planet right now. So until Dan returns, know that my heart's going out to all you guys. I also hear babies crying, so that might be a little bit of a snafu. We shall see. Ooh, I hear like singing. All the things. Hopefully you guys are drinking something fun and that doesn't taste like a candle. I don't mean to knock you, T, but you really do taste like a candle. I wish I had good dad jokes right now. I heard one yesterday that was funny and now I can't think of it and I'm terrible at remembering jokes. Oh dear. The funny thing is that Dan's not here right now, but he still has his headphones on, so he's probably can hear all this. Oh, maybe not. Hi, Dan.
I heard some of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just making sure Rachel's okay with the babies and all that stuff because everybody's home.
I heard the babies crying. That's not water. Straight whiskey. Okay.
Booze, rum and Coke, and water. No, I'm just kidding. It's just Diet Coke.
There you go.
Just something else other than water. A little caffeine too. Anyway. Yeah. So you're talking to our ringers, everybody, our Patreon supporters. Thank you.
Yeah, I was talking to Patreon. I was talking to myself, actually, but, I'm here for it.
I think one thing before we get into the actual podcast is we still need to keep our upbeat stuff, right? Like it's a heavy conversation, but like everything I feel like I'm consuming about this is like heavy doom and gloom. Blah, 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 blah. So I think we still need to like, keep ourselves, a little behind the scenes for you Patreon people. But, I think it's a lot, but this too shall pass.
That's the hope. That's for sure.
Fly, you fools.
So what you're saying, though, do we think it's necessary to have the sound machine? Because that feels a little too high up there.
Pew, 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 pew. Yeah, we're not going to do that. That's too much. Should we do it?
We shall.
I got to move my footboard. Get it in the right spot. There we go. All right.
Good.
And 3. Hey, ringers. Here we are. This is Dan.
Yeah. So, guys, we are starting off this episode a little bit different than usual, as you can probably already tell. With everything going on in the world right now, Dan and I thought that maybe we just want to share a very simple but honest conversation with you guys about everything that's going on.
Yep.
Dan made a very good point just now in that a lot of the conversation surrounding this COVID-19 coronavirus situation is pretty heavy. And obviously we're going to be surrounding our conversation about how that's affecting our worlds right now. But in the spirit of who Dan especially is and who I am, we want to keep things overall positive for you guys because we think maybe that's what you might need right now. So if you want, I'm drinking a nice thing of hot tea, which I just shared tastes like a candle, but I am still here for it. So grab something that's going to fill your soul and join us for this conversation.
Yeah, I want to start with something and like, hopefully maybe this is like a low point in like the heaviness situation, but like everybody's talking about other past pandemics, right? And I think that's the key. Past pandemics, right? Past epidemics. Pandemic, yeah. Right? Pandemic of 1918. Was that Spanish flu where just in Philadelphia alone, it was like several 100,000 people died, right? Over the, hundreds of millions of people died. I'm thankful that we can talk about that as being in the past. And thankfully, we're hopefully on the forefront of this. We've got, organizations telling us what to do and how to combat this. And the point I'm trying to make is that there are other things that have happened, right? Swine flu, Spanish flu, all these things, right? But they're in the past. This one feels so heavy because, it's just shared in media. It seems like we're trying to get ahead of it, and there's provisions that are just affecting so many people. So the thing I want to remind you is that we all will get through this. It will happen, and at some point we will look back. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's 5 years. We'll look back and be like, "Oh my gosh, do you remember that craziness that affected our industry, that affected our economy, that affected us, that affected everything?" Right? But at some point we will look back, and it will be scary. It's scary right now, but at some point we will look back and say, "Whew, we are stronger because we got through that," or whatever. So Hang in there. It's going to be great.
Right. And I think on that note, we have to start this entire conversation off by telling you guys that we are truly in unprecedented territory right now. As Dan said, we've gone through different pandemics before. And I mean, even huge life events, things like 9/11, things that have really shook a lot of people to their core. And not to say this is different, but this is new territory in the sense that so many things are being affected across the globe at the same time. So with that said, Dan and I are currently recording this as of Thursday, March 19th. We are well aware that things are changing quickly and escalating quickly. We are not medical experts. We're not health experts. We're not legal experts. We can't give you guys any advice about what you should do in these situations. We also cannot predict the future. Everything that we're going to be talking about in this conversation involves probably a lot of what ifs and maybe a little bit of our personal opinions. But otherwise, we're just here to give you support through what we know is a very difficult time for a lot of us right now. So.
Yep. And we're gonna stay away from numbers and projections and escalation and all that stuff. We're gonna stay away from politics. We're just talking about, the feels of it all, right?
Wouldn't it be so weird if we did get really all of a sudden super political and I bust out a bunch of medical charts? Yeah, that would maybe a spreadsheet, but. I could see that applying.
A medical spreadsheet.
No, that is very true.
Yeah.
No, we're going to do what we do best, and that is talk with you guys through this, share some things that might help you, keep an optimistic look on the bright side. But yeah, and I do want you guys to know, so Dan and I both have families. Because we work in the event industry, that everything is on hold right now. And we're well aware that we need to do everything we can to continue showing up for our couples, but also our families. Those are both of our main focuses right now. Not that you guys are not, but if there is any delay in us getting out future episodes of the podcast, at this point, we hope there isn't. But I just wanted to put that out there that right now we are trying to take care of those things first and foremost. It is now a great time to go back and listen to any past episodes. In fact, If you want to send us some of your favorites, that is always super awesome for us to hear. But I did want to let you guys know that if we go quiet for a little bit, know that it's because we just need to take care of something that's a little bit more urgent right now.
Yep.
I feel bad saying that, but...
No, that's okay. I mean, yeah. I think everybody's in a similar situation. You're taking care of your own. It might be a little hiccup now, but I know there are couples who are planning weddings for next year and that I'm still booking and talking to people. So people are still booking for next year and looking at it. It really affects the people over the next couple of months who have got weddings going on right now. You guys are in the line of fire, and I think one of the things we do need to talk about is kind of where we're at as of CDC announcements and all that kind of stuff. CDC is obviously a national organization, but some of your local ordinances and mandates from your governor and things like that, they're going to come into play. But so as of March 15th, 2020, the CDC officially recommended the cancellation of weddings in the United States for 8 weeks. So they recommended that. It's technically not mandated, although it might be in certain areas of the country and your state and counties and stuff. But so that's for 8 weeks that they recommended canceling weddings, or until about mid-May.
Yeah. And basically, as of the last update that I saw, the most recent thing I've seen is that March 16th, the government mentioned that gatherings of 10 people or more would be considering mass gatherings. And that would mainly apply if you're in an area that has even minimal spreading of the virus. So that is according to the CDC. Obviously, like I said, things are changing. Dan and I are not experts on any of this. This is just what we seem to be seeing. In fact, as of yesterday, most of the courthouses were either closed or closing by the end of day today in our area, which means couples are not able to get marriage licenses. So this is not just a blip on the radar. This is definitely having a lot of effect on our sweet couples who are getting married, including you guys. So, this is where I think I want to share with you guys that you are allowed to be whatever you are at this situation. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be confused, as many of us are. Angry, yeah. Because this is a sucky situation. And obviously, it is incredibly terrible for those that are getting sick from this and passing, or knows of those that are. But if this is affecting you in a way where your wedding is being affected, I know weddings in the grand scheme of it all, like compared to somebody's life, okay, maybe you feel like, okay, but is it that big of a deal? It is a big deal. It's something that you've been planning and preparing for and saving for and thinking about for a very long time. So you're allowed to have your feelings. You're allowed to mourn what could have been, or whatever it is. But once you're ready to move from that, that's where we want to have this conversation with you about maybe a way to do some mindset shifts and turn this into the best situation that it possibly could for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This mind shift thing, I think, is something that you really own a lot, and you've actually helped me with many times. And it's this idea of shifting from, that you get to do, or you have to do something to get to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't you explain it a little bit?
So there are many times in our lives where we just feel like, oh, I have to For me, it's like, oh, I have to go to the store for groceries, because I hate going to the store to get groceries. I don't know why, but it's just something that I feel is a pain in the butt. In the current situation, man, has that shifted entirely, right? But instead of thinking on the days where I'm able to be like, okay, Danielle, we got to get the groceries done, instead of thinking I have to go to the store for groceries, let's think instead like, okay, today I get to plan meals that are going to support my family's well-being. I'm going to go to the store and knock that out. Just switching from the idea of I have to do something to I get to do something is one of those mindset shifts that could really, in a very minor way that you don't even realize, lift your soul a little bit.
Yeah, same thing. I feel like, we kept our kiddos home for a couple days before the actual call came out that we had to close schools and all that stuff in Pennsylvania. And those first couple days, I was irritable. I was angry. I was upset. I was like, I have a business to run. I need to focus on this. Like my kids are going to distract me from that. And after like 2 or 3 days, I was like, wait a second. Like I found like a rhythm, right? Like I was like, I get to be home with them. Number one, like it's a true gift that I'm self-employed and that I work from home, and that I can just hop in my office during nap times or whatever and get some work done, right? Like other people have, other circumstances where they can't just be home. So I'm looking at these situations saying, okay, well, I get to be home with my kids. I get to have fun with them. I get to play a little bit. And I read something today that was like, this is like a forced rest. So many of us are running around crazy and being upset and like wishing we had more time with our family and wishing we had more time for like little projects we wanted to do around the house. It's like forced rest. So rather than me saying like, oh, I have to be home with my family. Oh, I have to be home with, this or that. No, I have to figure out what to do with these couples. Like, no. I get to serve people better. I get to be home with my family. I get to have opportunities to rise to the occasion of all the things that I talk about with my couples, about being there for them and helping them and being a trusted advisor. How crappy would it be if in their time of need that I couldn't just rise to the occasion and be a human? And it's all of those little things, right? Like now I'm looking at my business thing like, okay, well, I get to have some free time where I can brainstorm and like think about my business. All these little get to things, maybe that's, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, but like, whether you have to postpone or cancel or whatever that looks like, maybe you now get to do a little DIY project that you wouldn't have gotten to do if it was, next month or whatever. I don't know. Like there's silver linings, right? And I love this idea. And this is all Danielle that she's helped me with so many times. Like I said, that you can now find some things that you get to do now rather than the fact that you have to postpone or you have to cancel or whatever.
Right. The way we talk to ourselves matters so much. And this is one of those times where I think making this little shift can really improve your overall day, right? Because you're allowed to be angry, like we said, but eventually we want you to come out of it and we want you to start the healing process through this and show up and be your best self possible for sure. A friend of mine, actually Amber Anderson, who was on this podcast before, she kicked off season 7 with me while Dan was away, where we talked about the idea of your marriage being more important than the wedding. She shared and has shared often that your wedding is a really big life event and it's a really big deal. And the hope is always that you have more big life events throughout that time. In this current chapter of life, I know that your wedding feels like the biggest deal ever. But there are couples who have faced problems like this and much, much worse. And they've come out the other side eventually. You know what I mean? They're not,
Hey, guys.
There goes the pups. I'll wait till they stop since I'm talking and I can't mute this part. Oh, this is such a hard thing to talk about.
See that.
Molly, come here!
Somebody like at the front door.
It's mail time.
Oh, mail time, mail time, mail time, mail time. Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my
tail, and when it comes,
I want to wail. Mail. Yep.
Copyright right there.
Yep.
All right, jump it back in.
Okay.
Oh, crap. What was I saying? I know what I was going to start to say. I was going to say they're not...
Talking about what Amber says and what she talks about and how there are things that people have come through.
Yeah, I got it. They're not, completely thrilled with how everything may have shook down with how their wedding unfolded, but they came out the other side often stronger from it. And This is where I think it's a good time to look at those couples. I mean, Dan, we had done an episode so early on back in season 1 about three couples or 2 couples whose weddings were very much impacted, one by a hurricane, one by a blizzard. And years later, now they can kind of look back at it and be like, yeah, it was so stressful in the time, but like we did it and we came together and we rallied and we did what we had to do to kind of make it happen. So my hope is that this is not the last or, like I said, only big life event that you have. And I don't know if this helps you to know that, but know that this is something that you'll eventually look back on. You know, as stressful as it is right now, and Amber, that's something that Amber talks about a lot, is that there are couples that go through this experience all the time. I think the reason it feels so big right now is everybody is going through it at the same time. So there's a lot of like commiserating going on. And that's helpful sometimes, but then we have to like come out of it and turn it around a little bit.
Yep. Yep. I think we should get into a couple things because I know I've got a lot of couples asking me questions and wondering about certain aspects of their wedding. And I know you as a planner are getting even more questions and, doing all kinds of things for your couple. So I think the elephant in the room is that if they should cancel or postpone their wedding, especially if their wedding's in the next 2-3 months, right? That's
Right.
the number one question.
Yeah, 100%. And fortunately, this is where no one can really give you this answer but you.
Yep.
Dan and I stand by the fact that you should 100% follow the laws and the rules that are being put in place by the CDC and your local governments, and anything that you have. That just needs to happen. Dan, I think you had said there's what happened out in Jersey.
Yeah, there's an actual mandate that gatherings, I think it's 50 people or more, are just prohibited. And
In New Jersey right now.
In New
right?
Jersey, yeah,
Okay.
in New Jersey. It actually might just be a specific county, but I think
Okay.
it's the whole state, I think.
Okay.
But I just read an article about it that the police had to show up and literally break up a wedding at like 8 p.m. Maybe it was enforcing a curfew, maybe it was something, but they went to the venue managers and the staff and everybody had to disperse. And I don't think there was an issue, but that's got to suck for that couple to kind of be in the middle of their day and then have to hear that you just got to leave or get canceled or whatever. It's going to be something that you have to decide, right? Do you want to cancel everything and do a little elopement, on the day that you're supposed to get married and still get married on that day, and then have, try to postpone and work with all your vendors and everything to do something next year? What's it going to look like for you?
I think from what I'm seeing is, on the whole, vendors and venues are coming together to rally and do as much as they can to make it happen for the couples. There's a much bigger conversation here about contracts and legalities that I don't know how much you and I, Dan, really want to get into. I think this is a place to know that your vendors that you're hiring, most of them are small business owners who are, as we said at the beginning, this is unprecedented territory. So we're all trying to navigate this in the best way that we know how. And many of us are learning things as we go. And
on the go.
We have to, because this is a situation that we've never experienced before. So we're really doing our best. So have these conversations with your vendors, with your team in place. Have these conversations with your venue, because we get that it's not an easy decision. We get why you're in the place that you are, that you need to be making this decision. So know that you and your guests' health is number one most important. We want to do everything we can right now to stop this situation from spreading any further, and perhaps postponing or canceling your wedding, if it's happening soon, might be the best decision for you to make, but only you can really make that decision based off of everything that we know so far.
Yeah. Let's talk wedding insurance.
Oh, good. I really haven't talked about this much over the last week. Okay. I am not an insurance provider. Dan is not an insurance provider. We do not offer insurance policies. The end. So, wedding insurance is wedding cancellation insurance is a really tricky policy, right? Because there are certain things it covers, there are certain things it does not cover. If you were a couple that opted to get wedding insurance before all of this happened, now is a good time, if your wedding is coming up very soon, to get on the horn with your insurance provider and figure out what your policy does and does not cover. I would not make any assumptions right now. I would not go off of anything that you're reading on the internet. My couples have different policies with different companies. What one company is saying, the other company is saying the complete opposite. So there is no one clear answer to all of this. The only clear answer that we seem to be knowing right now is that if you attempt to get a policy now, if you did not get a policy yet, that policy is not going to cover anything to do with the coronavirus, in the same sense that if you were living somewhere and you were in the middle of a hurricane and you tried to call to get hurricane insurance for your house, nobody will give you that hurricane insurance as the hurricane is coming towards you. So that's where all that comes from. But if you have questions, definitely give them a call. If your wedding is not in the immediate future, I would say to maybe give it a week or two, because they're getting inundated with phone calls right now. So have a little bit of patience as they do their best to help everybody that they are helping. But please don't assume. Call and ask, because there's a lot of really misleading information online, and you can't go off of what one person's experience is or isn't. So.
Ooh.
Okay, so I want to talk about postponing, because I am suddenly very good at knowing how to postpone a wedding, because I have gone through boot camp this week of the boot camp of wedding postponements. Yeah. So there are definitely some things that I learned along the way. I'm not saying that anybody should or shouldn't postpone their wedding. I kind of want to share with you guys some tips on what I found worked really well, that once my couples made the decision to postpone their wedding, I hit the ground running. So, Dan, have you had couples postponing?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and were those couples talking directly with you? Were they working with a planner, a little bit of both?
They primarily worked with their venue first. That was like the number one thing. They were working with their venue coordinator, this particular couple doesn't have an actual wedding planner.
Okay. So if you guys are so lucky to have a planner, and I very much hope you do now more than ever, hopefully they're going to help you through the process once you've made the decision on what you want to do. For my couples in particular, and this is for my couples where we're just offering wedding management services up to the couples that we're doing full planning services, I'm doing everything I can to help every single one of my couples, regardless of what level of service they have with me. Obviously, all planners are going to, navigate this their own way through it. But if you have a planner that's on board, make sure you're having a conversation with them, keeping them in the loop. Communication is going to be so key right now. And listen to how they think is the best way to approach it once you've made the decision, as far as getting everybody on board, all of your vendor team, because it's a lot of people to bring together. Now, if you are going to be tackling this yourself, you're going to do just fine. You're going to do this and it's going to be okay. It's going to be a lot of like emailing and phone calling, right? But you're going to be able to get through this. So if your wedding does not fall within this 8-week time frame that the CDC most recently gave, know that many venues and vendors are giving priority to those couples right now. And I've battled with whether I agree with that or not. Dan, I don't know what you feel on it. But the idea is that we're working with limited resources right now. And our couples that fall within this 8-week time frame are essentially the decision whether or not to postpone or cancel is being taken away from them. They just have to, because the venue's closing. They're not allowed to operate. Right. It is what it is, depending on where they are. So those couples are getting sort of first dibs on rescheduled dates.
Yep.
So I don't know what camp I'm in right now, but I can also make the argument that if you are looking to postpone sooner rather than later out of like to kind of like mitigate some risk, maybe you should be allowed to do that. But I don't know. I still don't know where I stand on all of it. I've gone back and forth so many times.
It's tough. It's tough because like you and me, we have a finite number of weekends that were available, right? And so a couple who's like in this 8-week period and desperately needs to they must reschedule, they must postpone, they must whatever. Like you said, the decision is being taken away from them, so they have to do it. So if you choose to postpone, know that like you might not get first dibs because like that's your decision. You could keep it there, you could wait closer, but I know that sounds kind of insensitive to say that, but like there's like there's a balance that we're all trying to find to this, right? And if you have the choice to be able to say like, maybe I'll hold out a little bit, and wait till it's closer, or I don't know. It's really tough.
Yeah, someone likened it to me to our medical situation is that, there's a limited number of medical resources available to us. And right now we need to allocate those resources to those that need it most. And if those that are lower on the need scale of needing it are taking the place to those that need it more, that's where the imbalance comes into play. So that's where
Right.
that doesn't mean you can't have these conversations or ask. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you're being met with the reply of we need to take care of our April and May couples first right now, know that they're just working with limited resources and trying to navigate it in as much of a fair way, I guess, as they see fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as Dan said earlier, yeah, right. As Dan said earlier, if you do make the decision to postpone the wedding, 100% start with your after your planner, start with your venue, because all of your vendors are very important to all of this, and you have you've put in the time and effort to talk with each one of them and select them and get excited with them. And it's not to say that any one vendor is more important than the other, but your venue is sort of the keystone to all of this, because unless you're planning and ready to switch to an entirely different venue location, which will be hard, not impossible, but definitely hard, you need to know what your venue's availability looks like first and foremost.
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, it goes back to what your priorities were, right? Like, I think you need to think about what are those top three. For many people, it's probably venue, planner, photographer.
I wouldn't say planners in there, honestly. I think it's your food, your photographer, and your entertainment. That's I don't think that's not uncommon for sure. So
I'm just being nice.
Thanks, Dan. No, but it's true. I think. There's nothing wrong with sending out a short and sweet email once you start to say, like, you know what, we need to look at what postponing might look like. For many of my couples, I just sent out a short and sweet email to every single one of their vendors saying, hey, this is what we're thinking we may be doing. What does your availability look like? After we got the availability from the venue for, if a venue said we have this date, and this date, we just presented those 3 dates to every single vendor and said, do you have any of these available? If so, please let me know which ones. Also, if you can let me know anything about your postponement policy, please share it with me now. And from there, you're going to love this, guys, but I made spreadsheets of who was and wasn't available. And as people got back to me, I just kept updating that spreadsheet until we found a column that had as many of their vendors available as possible that worked for the couple.
Yep.
So... yeah, I think it's definitely a good idea as you're reaching out to get a good idea of how they're handling postponements. You've probably put down deposits for your date. You've probably made payments. Depending on your vendors, where you're at in the planning process, it's okay to ask questions right now to get a better understanding of how you can expect the future to unfold as far as your relationship with them. If you need to postpone, will your deposit transfer to a new date? Many vendors are, but your vendor might say, unfortunately, no, we can't do that at this time. There may be restrictions onto when you can postpone it to. It may have to be a Friday or a Sunday, or it might have to be within a certain time frame. So, will there be additional fees incurred? Will your venue consider lowering the minimums if you're concerned about travel bans and your venue normally has a certain minimum of people that need to attend? Will they work with you on the idea that you're not going to be able to get all these people to attend? I'm not saying any vendor should or shouldn't do these things, but ask the questions. If you do it from a place of being polite and respectful, then that's key. As always.
Yes, very much key. I think that you'll probably find, and I don't know if you're seeing this or not, but there's probably a little more flexibility with postponing than canceling.
Yes.
Canceling adds a whole new set of terms and a whole new ball of wax, especially when you're talking about small businesses and livelihoods and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. So Dan and I are small business owners. For you ringers out there listening, I don't know what kind of jobs you have. Some of you may be really greatly affected by the situation at hand. Others may work in the medical field, in which case, thank you so much for everything that you're doing right now, because you guys are having to show up and do some miraculous things for those that are sick and dealing with this. But you may or may not be affected depending on who your employer is in a financial standpoint. Know that, like I said earlier, most of your vendors that you're working with are likely small business owners as well. And we are all being really affected by this because we plan our if this is how we support our families, we plan our income based off of when you're making your payments for your weddings. And right now there are very few weddings happening over the next 2 months. So that income that many of us were expecting is now like gone. So we're trying to navigate this from a place of understanding your situation and being as flexible as humanly possible. But know that if your vendor is sticking to their contract, it's because they need to stay in business long term to get to your postponement date. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If every single one of your vendors right now gave you a full refund on every last dime you ever paid, they did that, and if they did that for every single one of their couples who are having this experience right now, this insanely unfortunate experience, they cannot stay in business. Is my bet, unless there's some huge corporation.
Mm-hmm. I'm willing to bet that most single person operations don't have, like I know people who are postponing 20 weddings. I don't know many people that have 12, what's that? $60,000, $120,000. If it's $6,000 a wedding times 20, what's that? $120,000.
Right.
Plus taxes that are probably paid on that, plus expenses that are probably already paid. Like there's a bajillion things out there that, don't make it easy.
Right. Exactly. So I think as you have these conversations with your team of vendors, definitely keep conversations, light but also transparent and courteous, because as much as you're going through a hardship right now and we feel you, we are trying to do everything we can to continue serving you and all of our other couples as well. And that might mean, making some really hard decisions just like you are. And I'm not trying to take away. I don't want this to come across, Dan, like we are not sensitive to the situation, because I think all of us are. I'm just trying to share with you ringers the other side of it, I guess, a little bit, to know that we're really doing our best overall. So
yeah.
And this is where it's important. It's why we've talked before in many an episode, before all this even was a blip on the radar, that contracts are so important. Read your contracts when you sign them. Now is a good time to go back and check your contracts. What do they say? I think on a whole, vendors are going above and beyond to serve and help where they can. But if you're being met with pushback, or you're being told that the terms of your contract are being changed and something doesn't feel right there, I would say to look into it further, whether that's consulting with a lawyer or whatever you're doing. But I'm definitely seeing, as a planner, because I think I'm involved in everybody's communication right now, I'm definitely seeing new clauses come through, because vendors are kind of scrambling that if they didn't originally have it in their contract, now they're trying to say, this is our new clause. And
but it wasn't part of the agreement you signed.
Right. And I'm trying to watch what I fight, because if I go back to their original agreement, if they don't go with this new clause, my couple's going to owe a whole lot more money. So I'm trying to help them navigate this in a way that makes sense for them. But if you're getting hit with, well, we actually made a new rule now, go back to your original contract that you signed and agreed upon, and check that first, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so let's operate on the assumption that most people are postponing, right? Like most people are not saying, screw the wedding. Most people, I think, at least what I'm seeing is, we're going to find a new date. We're going to go to the fall. We're going to go to next year when this is all, we can all breathe a sigh of fresh air and it's all behind us. So let's operate on that assumption and talk about some options to consider if people are postponing.
Right. And Dan, honestly, everything you just said is like, hopefully by the fall or hopefully by next year. But guys, we don't know.
Right.
I have a couple that postponed their April wedding to July. We just don't know if we're going to be quote unquote in the clear by then. I certainly hope we are for everybody's sake, but we generally don't know. So when we say that stuff, we're just, we're thinking like long-term future is what we're saying. So
yeah.
But you might be in a situation where you take the first step, you reach out to your venue and your venue goes, sorry, we don't have any dates till next year. Do you want to wait until next year to get married? I don't know. I do know that canceling could easily result in a huge loss financially and mentally for you. It's a hard decision to make for sure. But you also may not want to plan everything again.
Right. I mean, and canceling also means like if you cancel the current vendors that you're with, right? Like say the venue, right? Like if say the venue that you really want to be at doesn't have any dates till next year and you want to cancel them and try to find something sooner, right? You're still canceling the contract with that venue, and whatever that contract says for that venue is what you have to follow. You know, you signed it. And if that says that they get to keep all the money, that might be what you have to do.
Right. And that is, I think, also more for... So we're seeing venues do some interesting things in this moment right now. And what I don't understand fully just yet, just full disclosure, is for the couples who are being forced to not have their wedding. I'm curious as to how venues are handling that, because I'm definitely seeing some that are not handling it as well as I would like, in the sense, but at the same time, if they don't have dates available, what are they supposed to do? I guess the idea is that you would pick a date other than a Saturday, which is prime date. Maybe do they have Friday, Sunday dates? Maybe do they have a Tuesday, Wednesday? Like, keep that conversation, that dialogue open, that like, what can we do? What are our options here? Because we're in a contract with you. We're between a rock and a hard place. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really hard.
Between a diamond and a hard place.
Get Ooh, it? I see what you did there.
Because diamonds are the hardest material in the world.
Are they though? Is that still the case?
Yep. I think so, yeah. Pretty sure about that. Hardest natural substance, maybe?
Right. I don't know.
Anyway, pretty sure that's it.
We digress.
Some metallurgist out there is like, no!
I know, somebody's screaming at us. Obviously, it's kryptonite or whatever.
Carbonite.
I feel like so full disclosure, in our evening hours, because there's not much else to do yet, Mike and I have been watching, we got a Disney Plus subscription that we're really pumped about because we love Marvel. Well, especially Mike, he loves Marvel and I'm learning Marvel. And with all the Iron Man we've been watching, I feel like there's some sort of like metal, whatever that he references, that is like indestructible, but I can't think of it. I want to say palladium. I don't know.
Adamantium is what Wolverine is made out of.
That is not Marvel, Dan.
But that's DC, I know.
Yeah. Duh. Everybody knows that. I just learned that. I have a hard time separating DC from Marvel. Like Batman and Superman and Deadpool are DC and the like X-Men, but Marvel's like Iron Man and Thor and Captain America and Captain Marvel. Yeah. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite
movie? So actually, one of the things that Rachel and I did a while ago is we actually went through and watched every Marvel movie in the order in which it would be in the universe, not how it was released, in the order in which it would be in the universe. And that was before I think Avengers Endgame came out. So we watched everything, like months leading up to it. We watched everything, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was so good. Anyway.
But do you have like a favorite character throughout the series?
I mean, Iron Man's a cop out to say that, but like I love Iron Man just because like Yeah, I just like that he's a normal dude who's rich. Like, that's why I like Batman, because he's a normal dude who's rich and who just like wants to kick some butt, right? Like, or like wants to take on the bad guy. I think, yeah, I'd probably have to go there. I like Thor for his.
Me too. What?
No, I like Thor for his
abs
speech. No, not abs. Like, I love it when, like, Rachel at one point, we're getting totally off subject, but I think this is really funny. At a party one time, she bet me that I couldn't talk an hour like Thor. So I just walked around going, "This mortal form has made me weak. I crave sustenance." And, like, just ridiculous stuff. Or you humans are puny and tiny. It's like really stupid stuff.
I love that every time, like, I love that anytime he, like, suits up, braids happen. Like, he's like, his beard gets French braided or his hair gets braided. Like, that's talent.
He's amazing.
It's impressive to me.
Yeah, I like Thor for the way he speaks.
I'm with you. I'm excited for Black Widow, which who knows the state of if that movie's still coming out in May, but we're personally excited for it, hopefully. So, anyway, I also like Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange is really cool.
Probably because I like Benedict Cumberbatch as much as I do. So
yes, he's so awesome. How about the Sherlock Holmes series?
Best series in the whole world. Love him.
Yes,
okay.
Awesome.
So as we were saying,
and tangent over.
I can't even segue back into this here. Okay, so we were talking about weddings getting canceled. Hey, at least we don't live in like the Marvel universe where like our cities are all these crazy aliens are coming in. Yet, I guess I should say yet at this point, because who knows? But anyway, so as you go through this, I want to talk about some things that maybe you can consider to be like, hey, what else can we do to make this happen? One of the things we're seeing is that people are live streaming their events. So if they're still going through with it on a much smaller scale, if they're still able to in their area, is that they are bringing in a company to live stream it and let their guests watch and celebrate from afar. I think that's really sweet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think you can also still keep your wedding day what it was and maybe do a small elopement, just the two of you guys, and then throw a big party later once things have calmed down.
Yep, I have one couple who that's one of the things they're considering. They're just saying that like they're not sure if they really want to bring people out who are immunocompromised or elderly or whatever, and they just want to. They're thinking about canceling and postponing their wedding till next year, but they still said that they want to keep their date. They still want to, they're like, we don't want to wait to get married. We're okay to wait to like have the party and all that kind of stuff, but we don't want to wait to get married. It's time for us. And so they're just saying, we're going to do like an adventure elopement. I think one of the things they were talking about is still having me come along and just doing like a little thing. I think the most recent was, like one of those pontoon airplane boat things like that, like lands on water. And I was like, yes, totally in, let's do it. Shout out to Jenny if she's listening. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, it's like one of those situations where all I want to do is just like, if I can do anything to make their experience, their planning experience, their whatever they're doing awesome and still have ability for them to, have photographs of this like special thing that's even kind of different that might, you can have negative feelings about this thing, right? Like it's possible that it's possible that there are negative feelings attached to this, thing that's happening. But I think this is a situation where some people are saying, we'll put off the big part of it. We'll put off the big party and whatever till another time when we can enjoy that experience of having everybody together. But we're also not going to let this whole thing ruin our experience, and we're going to do something just us because it's just us. We already live together. We're already quarantined and all that stuff. And we're going to do it, just for us and be married, Yeah. So I think people are fighting back in smart, thoughtful ways, and not letting it completely ruin their experience.
Right. And I think like if it comes down to that date means so much to you because it's a date you've been thinking about for a really long time and you can't pull anything together. There is nothing wrong with standing in your living room, holding onto their hands and expressing your love and commitment to them. Like, think about that. Thinking about it makes me get teary-eyed because I think it's a really beautiful thing. But like, we are having to cancel or postpone weddings because of this really terrible thing that's happening. And people are sick from it. But if you're not, and you're opting or having to or getting to postpone or cancel your wedding to keep your favorite people on this planet safe, think about that for a minute in the sense that, A, it could be so much worse. You're still together with this person. You have these people in your life that you get to be a part of and to get to love and to share these experiences with. Like, that's a really wonderful, wonderful thing. And it still sucks. I'm not taking that away. But like, I just go back to, it could be so much worse. And like, if you need to just pause for a second and hang on to your partner's hands and just like tell them how much you love them, how much like you mean to them, like, and maybe that is your own internal private wedding date. You don't need a piece of paper for that. You don't need somebody to make it legal. Like, that's a big deal. And I'm sorry you guys are going through this.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
This is a time, guys, take care of yourselves. If you're working remotely, try and stick to a routine. I know as a person who's worked from home for a very long time, it's really hard to stick to a routine.
Yeah.
Do your best. Get in your exercise, get your rest, drink your water, especially get rest. So important. And refocus on the positive. Dan, has there been anything that you've been doing these past few days? Because obviously, life's on its head right now to kind of refocus on the positive.
It's kind of funny you say that. I've just been letting things happen however they want to. It is what it is, right? Like I'm giving myself a whole lot of grace right now. There's no time to exercise for me. Like, it's babies from 5 o'clock in the morning until evening. And then by the time, everybody goes to sleep, it's clean up from 3 kids being around all day and baby toys and 4-year-old dolls and all that stuff. But it's, I think the one thing that I'm doing is like there are a couple times during the day where I will just like maybe everybody's asleep and I'll just sit on the couch and I'll just drink my coffee for like a minute, right? You sit there with my like arms folded or my like legs crossed and just breathe and take a sip of my coffee, right? And that's it. Even if it's 1 minute, let the quiet put things where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. I've been following the advice of many people that I've heard, but recently a wedding planner out in California, her name's Renee Dallow. She has been very much on this kick of that we should make gratitude lists. And as woo-woo as it sounds, I do not care. I think it is a really great thing to sit and write down just 3 things you're grateful for every day. Rachel Hollis actually talks about this as well, now that I say that out loud. But
that's not woo-woo at all. There's a whole bunch of science behind that.
Right, but I think it feels like, okay, what is writing this down really going to do? But it does help. It makes you focus on the good things and the things that you are really thankful for. And I think it's awesome.
If I can throw out a book that is pretty helpful, it's called The 5-Minute Journal. If you ever heard of that one, it's pretty awesome. It's a little gratitude thing. It's a 5 minutes in the morning, 3 to 5 minutes in the afternoon. Or in the evening right before you go to bed. You put it on your bedside table, and it's literally like the same prompts, hundreds of them, I think a year's worth in this little book, and it's awesome. And I can tell you, now that I'm saying this, it's been probably a couple of weeks since I filled it out because everything's crazy, and I'm not waking myself up. Babies are waking me up. But I can definitively say that the mornings I was like on it for a couple months, and the mornings where I woke up and had like 5 minutes of quiet peace time where I got to like think about what I was happy about for that day and what my day would look like if I got these like 3 important things done that would make my day great. And it just focused. And I think we could all use a little bit of that right now. So I think a gratitude list is on point.
Yeah, 100%. And just guys, go back to, why are you getting married? What's your reason behind all of it, right? Just simplify it down as much as you can and know that your guests are going to understand. This is not you suddenly saying, you know what, we realized we want like a fall wedding instead of spring, and everybody changed their plans. Like, you don't have, for some of you, you don't have much of a choice right now, and people are going to understand. Everybody is having to adjust right now. Every aspect of their life, they're going to have to adjust. I would certainly hope that they're not going to hold this against you, because there's no way you could have anticipated this when you set your date a year ago, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
And speaking of guests, I want to share actually, because I think it's a lot of people are also asking, like, how do we communicate with our guests about what's going on? I will say, I don't think you should say too much about what you may or may not be doing until you know for sure what you're doing. But one of our ringers, their name is Alex. They actually shared with us a letter that they're sending out to their guests. So Alex's wedding is taking place in August. And I think August right now, I think it feels like it's far away, but we just don't know how long all of this is going to last. So I asked Alex if we could share this, and they said yes. So this is the letter that they are sending out to their guests. So they say, "Dear friends and family, we hope you are all well and safe in these uncertain times. Given the COVID-19 outbreak, we wanted to reach out regarding our date wedding in city or venue, depending on where you are. So as of today, we are still planning on having our wedding as scheduled. However, we're closely monitoring the situation. We'd much prefer to stay the course, but our utmost importance is everyone's health and safety. So we will postpone the wedding if travel restrictions don't lift, people are required to be quarantined due to travel, or if it's simply too unsafe for large gatherings. We realize some of you have already booked travel and accommodations. So if we do postpone, we will do everything in our power to help you sweet talk airlines and hotels into providing refunds, waiving change fees, though given the circumstances, we believe people will be very accommodating. Please bear with us as we wait for more news. We imagine we should be able to make the decision in about a month's time, and we will let you know as soon as we do. In the meantime, stay safe, read, play, breathe, and watch Frozen 2. Love, the couple." Have you watched Frozen 2 yet, eh? Because I know we did.
we had a Frozen day. So obviously we have kiddos, and Rachel, my wife, is doing these amazing theme days. So like the other day was just Frozen Day. The day after that was Under the Sea Day. And we watched Ariel or The Little Mermaid and Nemo. And then yesterday was Snow Day. And then today's Sports Day. So we're just trying to find little things.
She's such a good mama.
Yeah. She's
That's
so
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, we're all doing our best here right now, that's for sure. But going back to this letter, I thought I just thought it was really great. If people want to use that, I'll be sharing that in the show notes that we're going to be putting up. But it's okay to also say, if a lot of people are asking you questions, come up with a canned response, like something along the lines like, "Hey, we're taking it one day at a time and figuring it out. We'll keep you posted as soon as we know more. Stay safe. Love you. Done."
Done.
Like it's okay. Once if you're postponing, you can send out if you're postponing it farther out, send out a switch the date as opposed to a save the date or a save the new date. If you need to collect new RSVPs right away, go for it. If you can wait, I would say definitely wait. I don't think anybody really knows much of what's going on right now with their own personal lives, but I do think it's a good time to have a wedding website so you can communicate there. If you need to text, email, I think a Facebook group is brilliant right now because people can get updates when they're ready to get updates. And it's a great way to share. But yeah, I think moral of the story is they're going to be understanding of your situation. They totally get it. So, and I think keeping some lightness in it, like they had in the meantime, stay safe, read, play, breathe, and watch Frozen 2. Like that's what people need right now, for sure, now more than ever. So. Anything else you want to add, Dan?
just that at some point we're going to look back and be like, wow, that that changed our lives, that had a huge impact. But I think there will be a normal that we get back to. And just hang in there, everybody. It's going to pass. There were plenty of things, horrific accidents and times of history that were heavy and crazy, and we're still here. We're still going to be living through it, and we'll still be okay.
Yeah. And we're going to have your back throughout the whole process. So hang in there, friends.
Yep. All right. Hit us up if you have any questions. We're here for you guys.
Yeah. Dad. Dan, do you have any dad jokes?
Dad jokes. Yes, I do. Actually, I have a COVID-19 joke.
No,
but not like a bad one.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's kind of funny. It's an eye roll one. So I guess if we're all quarantined, we're just going to be telling inside jokes the whole time, aren't we?
I'll approve that.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's all right.
All right. Stay safe, friends.
See you guys. Woo!